that just goes to show that with a little bit of color, what a difference that can make.
Wow.
Huge difference. On today's show, we've got the lovely Jessie from North Carolina. I've never been to North Carolina. Tell us what's North Carolina about? Like, what would I expect if I go?
It is, well, one of two things, because the state is pretty amazing, where you've got coastal North Carolina on the east side, and on the west, you've got the mountains. So you have a little bit of both worlds, and it takes about maybe 6 hours to drive across the state. So you can go for a weekend away in the mountains. You can go for a weekend away at the coast. I feel like it's probably the furthest south I would want to be because it is fairly hot and humid most of the year. Several months unbearably so, where you don't even want to be outside. But it's beautiful. The coast is incredible. The water is like bath water. The beaches are gorgeous. So
nice.
North Carolina has a place in our hearts forever. We're not from there originally, but we pretend we are.
And today, what's the temperature?
So we actually moved from North Carolina 6 months ago. My husband's in the Coast Guard. But this week in North Carolina, they're in the 70s, which is unusual, but they typically have a week in February where it's like a spring summer preview. But then they're going to be back down to like 30s Fahrenheit come by the end of the week. So it's this time of year, it's like one day you're in flip-flops, the next day you're in a parka, and then you're in rain boots, and then you're back to your flip-flops. So
sounds like England in the summer, to be honest.
Probably. Yeah, it's probably pretty similar.
You don't know what to wear. No one knows what to wear.
No.
But the weather is crazy.
Layers.
How's your week? Good?
Week has been good. We're in coastal Oregon now, and we had some snow, which actually is very, very uncommon here. And no one knows how to drive in it, and it's very hilly, so it's very scary to be out there if people don't know what they're doing. But now it's like in the 50s and beautiful, and it's been a good week. We love Oregon weather. It's very mild. It's very, North Carolina, it fluctuates dramatically. Here, it's pretty much between 45 and 60 year round. Like, it's very mild and predictable. Yeah. So it's kind of nice.
Still sticking on the weather for a moment. I'm off to Chicago in like 2 weeks, and I was beginning to panic with the whole vortex winds and everything they got. It was a bit mental, but yeah. We lived in Detroit for a year, and very similar weather pattern, and just below freezing wind chills, and I've never experienced anything like it. It's bitter cold and pretty miserable, but luckily you're going to a pretty city and there's lots to do. So yeah, exactly. Well, I'm actually going to meet our co-host for the first time. It's going to be a good occasion. Listen, I'm just going to introduce you and why I got you on the show, because you reached out to us by email. I read this email. I remember this amazing story, and you renovating your home for 3.5 years, but I'm not going to go into it. I'm going to leave you to tell that story. But before we do, just tell us your background. Tell us about you a bit.
Sure. So my husband's in the Coast Guard. So we move about every 4 years. But before that, I had moved a lot as a kid. So this move to Oregon was actually my 24th move in my 7th state that I've lived in over here. So I move a lot. But it's fun because we keep talking about our forever home, because eventually my husband's career will be done and we get to pick a place to actually put down roots. Actually, having renovated the house, it actually gives us a little bit more opportunity, because now we can pretty much make anything what we want it to be if we just put some elbow grease into it. So I have a myriad of background of jobs. I started out being a gymnastics coach, and then I went into marketing and advertising, and I met my husband and knew we were going to be bouncing around. So I went and got my master's in teaching, and I taught for a few years, and then I had kids and I stayed home, and I actually ended up homeschooling them for a few years, because where we were living, the schools were not great. And then from that crazy time of homeschooling, and we were renovating then, I created my own business called Streamlined and Simple, and we make organizational products to help make women's lives more manageable when life is crazy and chaotic, because I knew that very well for many, many years. So that's cool. My background. We're a Coast Guard family. We've got 2 little boys, and we're renting now and loving every minute of not having to do anything in the house that we're currently in. It's lovely.
Well, if you do this Streamlined and Simple thing, I might put you in touch with my wife. Actually, her life's absolutely crazy at the moment. She's got 2 young kids running around the house, and one is, our youngest is almost about to walk, but he's still managing to climb up and destroy things. So the whole job thing, going back to work, it's a bit crazy. So tell us about this story, because I'm pretty excited. So this is the White River House.
Yes. So the White River house was never on our radar. We had moved to North Carolina and we're renting a beautiful house in the country, about 20 minutes away from the renovation house, and life was great. And then my father-in-law came to visit us, and he was also in the Coast Guard. And when my husband was growing up, they would move to a new location for 4 years. They'd buy a house, and for the first 2 years, they'd renovate, do some updates, sell it, make some money, do the same thing the last 2 years. So he grew up kind of watching his dad do it and just kind of helping as much as a 10-year-old kid can do. So my father-in-law came, and every time he visits us, he gets on Zillow or realtor.com and he starts looking at what is available to, what's a foreclosure, what is up at auction. Those are his favorite things to do. So he found a house in the neighborhood he used to live in. He's like, I'm gonna go look at this. You should come with me, to my husband. And so they went and look at it. And my husband came back and he's like, it's a big house, but like there's money to be made. Like this could be a nest egg for us. And I was kind of like, oh, maybe, like, okay, we'll go look at it. And somehow they convinced me like, yeah, this is a great idea. So we put an offer in the house. It was a foreclosure, empty for 4 years. The original owners were the ones that built it, and they were the only ones that had lived in it ever. And they were hoarders. So there was a lot of stuff in the house prior to us looking at it. So we didn't know this until we got into the house, that things were not as they seemed. But so we put an offer in May, and it was a foreclosure. So we knew it was going to take some time, and we were ready to close in August. And we had our financing required certain inspections to be done. And so we had a plumbing inspector come, and he pressure blasted the pipes. Everything looked good. He left. My husband was going to come back and do a walkthrough before we closed the next day. And when he walked in the next day, a pipe had burst during the pressure blast, and it just ran for the 30 plus hours it took for between the plumber leaving and my husband showing up the next day. It was on the second floor. So the space between the floor and the ceiling filled and then collapsed. And then it in the kitchen and in the living room, and then it even went down into the basement. So at that point I was like, do we want to do this? Like, it's maybe there's other things we don't know are wrong. And we worked a deal out with a bank, and we split the difference of the cost to fix it. And we kept going, and it took us until December, so almost 7 months later, to actually close on it. And it was I kept calling it the Beast before I called it the White River house. So basically it's a 3,800 square foot house on the river in Eastern North Carolina. And it had a 2,000 square foot, I called it a back building, and it was like a workshop, and it was set up to be like an apartment, but it wasn't finished. So you could tell that that room was supposed to be a bathroom, but there was not a single wall toilet to be found. It was just studs and plywood. So we decided to take on this insane adventure with our children were 1 and 3 when we moved in, and we were able to demo the kitchen and get it functional before we moved in. And by functional, I mean like we had a fridge. We had new cabinets, but the countertops weren't in yet. I mean, it was pretty functional, is like putting it very nicely of what we walked into. But and then for 3.5 years, we very slowly, and we did this ourselves. I think that's what makes our story really unique, is that we did 98% of the work ourselves: plumbing, electric, flooring, tiling, drywalling, painting, like you name it. My husband did the majority of it. I told him what
you told him what to do.
You put that tile there, and I painted. I literally painted for 3.5 years, and people were like, how are you still painting? And I'm like, you don't understand. I had to paint everything. So, but it was a beautiful house, and the bones were great. And it's funny because so many people thought we were going to keep it in the end, and we always knew it was an investment thing for us. And they were like, aren't you so disappointed that you didn't get to enjoy it? And I'm like, I enjoyed it for 3 weeks. and then we moved to Oregon, but it's really fun to look back on it now afterwards, because I feel like we were so involved and stressed and hurried, and now it's kind of like, oh, that was fun. And we did have some really fun times, and some silly things happened, but we know so much more about houses now. We can't stand to watch like those home HGTV, like house hunters, and they complain about a fan. I'm like, do you know how easy it is to change a fan out? You know, like you should be looking in the attic for leaks. Like that's what matters. Like you need to be looking at the pipes. So it's been a whole nother, it's really cool to see what goes into the building of a home and a house that I was completely unaware of before this undertaking. So yeah, that's kind of the Did you going through that whole journey, because it was like 3.5 years, right? So you've got the additional stresses of having a family around and stuff like that.
you must have had some real highs and some real lows. Do you remember a few of them? What you can tell us about?
Yeah, I only had 3 lows. And so I don't normally like to start with the negative, but I only had 3 moments where I like had a mental breakdown. The first was like about a week and a half after we moved in. All of a sudden we had no water pressure and we couldn't figure out why. And I was by myself with my young kids, and my husband was at work because he worked full time throughout this whole thing. And that's the thing. Like, he's in the Coast Guard working normal 40 to 50 hour weeks. And so I'm like, there's no water pressure. And I'm sort of freaking out thinking something else is going to burst. You know, we already had this big plumbing thing. Well, it turned out someone down the road had hit a fire hydrant and everyone's water pressure. And I was like, okay. Well, later that night, all the water went off and we couldn't figure out why. And we didn't know why for like 30 hours, which when you've got kids that are potty training and you can only flush the toilet once before you have to stop and wait till the water comes back on. And I came home and we had no water and I was really frustrated. We sit down to relax and my husband had just ripped down some drywall above a sliding glass door. And I look up and a cockroach is coming out of the wall. And I was like, no, like, I can't.
Let's get out of here.
I had to leave and go drive around for like 20 minutes. Like, it was really, it was like, what did we get ourselves into? Like, what are we doing? What is happening? So that was like my first, like, what are we doing? How am I going to make it out of this? Are we going to survive this? Are we going to like each other when we're done with this? So that was really, really rough. And then I think my second meltdown was when we were 6 months out from finishing, but we didn't know we were 6 months out because we thought we were going to stay in North Carolina for another 4 years with the Coast Guard. And they said, no, you're going to Oregon. And we were like, wow, that's 6 months away. And we have a lot of the house to finish. And I sort of like panicked, like, how are we supposed to be doing all this work that probably should take 12 to 15 months in 6? So I lost it then too. And I had to go drive. I'm like, I have to just go away. And then the last time we were just about done with our house, literally listing it, I think in 2 days. And we had a photographer coming to take photos, and our master bathroom was one of the last things we did. And it was back up and running. And then all of a sudden my husband was in the shower and he's like, hey, it's not draining in here. And I'm like, well, that's weird. So I go up there to look and I'm like, well, the toilet's backed up. Like, that's weird. And then I look, I'm like, there's stuff in the bathtub. Like, and my husband's like, well, they're all connected. I'm like, okay, what does this mean? So apparently we didn't have the master bathroom up and running for a year while we renovated that section of the house. Yeah. We had little boys who use flushable wipes and they don't bode well with pipes. And because we weren't using it, they blocked the pipes. And so what we had, luckily we're calling a plumber because it's so close to listing. The plumbers came and they removed the toilet and they removed the wax seal, and they should have vacuumed the water out of the tub and the toilet, and they did not. So when they went to put the snake down, it basically, everything that was backed up in the tub came up through the toilet and then all over the bathroom. And then I'm in my kitchen, which is below the bathroom, and there is like sewage water dripping off of our island light onto our kitchen, like into my butter dish and into like my salt and pepper. And I was like, my husband's not home, and I call him and I'm like, poop water in the kitchen, help. Like, and he is 5 minutes away at work. He runs home and they cleaned it up. They paid for it. We had a drywall guy come in and we fixed everything like very last minute. But that was like the last time and the last luckily big event that happened. And I was like, how many more things are going to go wrong in this house? Like, it was just crazy. And again, it wasn't technically our fault, that one, but it was enough for me to be like, I actually went shopping for like an hour. I was like, I just have to get out of this house and away from this. And somebody has to clean up the butter dish and the water that's now on my kitchen. And so that was, I
like your technique though. It's just like you hit the highs and then you just have to escape. You just get out.
Yeah, I think because we were homeschooling there, I was in the house all the time. So I had to leave in order to get like a breather. But there were so many highs in that house. I mean, like, my husband got promoted several times. I started my business in that house. Our youngest had eye surgery, and which was really successful and great while we were living there. I ran a marathon for the first time and the last time while we lived in that house. I mean, I taught my kids how to read in that house, and it was fun to design things and figure out what really works for our family and what doesn't. And just so many my oldest lost his first teeth in the house, like just so many awesome memories living in that house. But again, the memories are what matter, not really the house. Although there's definitely parts of that house that I'm like, when I have a forever home, I'm recreating. I want the front porch. That front porch was amazing. I want white subway tile in my bathroom. I want, that was the great part about it, is really figuring out like, yes, this is what I want when we're done bouncing around.
So, because like this was your first time doing this, like how did you find the confidence to do it yourself? Because there's so many things online and everything else, but to do it the first time is pretty scary.
Yeah, I think that we joke that our house is built on YouTube, Google, and Pinterest. A combination of them. My husband and I, our personality types are not afraid to try big projects. And if we're doing it, we're doing it. Like go big or go home. And fake it till you make it. My husband does really quality work no matter what he does. And when we were stuck on things or we didn't know, we just sought out help. We were lucky in that at the time I was coaching gymnastics at a little tiny gym in town, and the owner's husband was an electrician by trade. And he came over and taught my husband how to change all of our outlets out. So that was a huge help. And he helped us install, when we wanted to add pot lights, he showed us how to do it. And so when we needed to do it somewhere else in the house, my husband now knew how to do it. And he could call somebody and say, hey, I'm about to do this and I don't want to electrocute myself. What do I need to know? So we just had a plan for the majority of the time, but we winged it a lot because we ran into problems we didn't expect. We had funding issues. We funded this all ourselves as we want, which is why part of the reason it took us that long was funding. The other reason was my husband worked full time. So this was, and I couldn't do a lot of what I could do, which is mainly painting or changing out hardware until he had finished what he was doing. So I can't paint unless the drywall is done. I can't, he can't drywall until he tiles. So he taught himself how to tile. I have a cousin who tiles for a living, and he just called and said, tell me the most important things I need to know. And he did. And his first tiling job was the 700 square foot floor. He just did it. And we had one tile pop right at the edge, like where the floor would meet the hardwoods. But we just figured it out. If you want something bad enough, anything in life, you learn and you try. And if it doesn't work, you try something else. We just sort of knew we couldn't fail. Like this was our nest egg. This is what we were hoping to get a chunk of money to pay off our debt and get some retirement stuff and just be. So that's part of the reason we just did a lot of it ourselves, is we knew we would save the money. That 700 square foot tile floor that I just mentioned, my husband, the materials cost us $1,000. We asked the local home improvement place to quote us just in case he didn't want to take that on. The labor was $7,000, 7 times what the materials cost. And we were like, this is why people don't make money when they sell houses, because it's insane. I was like, no way. I was like, that's no way. So he was like, I'm just going to learn. I'm going to figure it out. And it's going to be $7,000 more dollars in our pocket on the flip side. So that's sort of how we approached it.
Was there anything that you said, I'm gonna have a go at this, but then stepped back and thought, no, I'm gonna get someone in to do this bit?
At the end, we did have someone help us frame the master bathroom and the closet, which was, again, not something my husband couldn't handle. It was a time constraint thing. So we met a great guy in town who's into restoring homes, not just renovating. He loves to restore 100-year-old homes. So we came in and we had a conversation with him and said, look, we are capable and we don't want everything. We just want you to come in and help us frame it out, move some outlets, add a couple outlets, and that be the end of it. We don't need anything else. We're not, and he was actually kind enough and nice enough to say, sure, I'll do that. And we did have, when we got our kitchen cabinets installed, installation was $400. And my husband was like, that $400 is worth the time for me not to do it. Because I don't know. He's like, I would be comfortable with the lower cabinets, but the uppers, he's like, I just never done it. And it seems like $400 is a reasonable amount.
Yeah. And
then again, we put a deck on the back of the house, and the ground, we're on a river. So the ground was very mushy. The water table made it feel like you were walking on muddy grass, even though it hadn't rained in weeks. So we did have that same company that helped us with our master bathroom came and put in like concrete footers and leveled it for us. And then my husband built the rest. So he built the stairs, the actual part that you walk on. They just put the concrete pilings or pillars in, made sure they were level and cut them to where they were supposed to be. And then he did the rest. And we actually put a cable railing on there. My husband did that all by himself with like no experience. And I sort of joke he has no fingerprints left after dealing with cable railings. So Yes, we called it things in when it was a time constraint, or it was something we just knew was above our heads, like the deck and leveling it on that kind of ground. It just had to be somebody.
It's being sensible and being, making sure, admitting at the point where, it's much better to just get someone in that can do this first time round, it's going to be safe. And then, cracking on with the rest of it.
Yeah. And then the other best thing I ever did was hired a professional cleaner when we were all done, because we lived in it. My husband's workshop was in our house. So he would cut wood, drywall. There was just the dust over that time was just insane. I felt like all I did was clean. So I was never more excited to hire someone than I was that cleaning lady. And I wanted to cry and hug her when she was done. Cause I was like, this is what I would have dreamed about this house looking like, but it's always been a work in progress and there's always been dust, and it was pretty awesome. It was the best $200 I've ever spent in my entire life.
Just for a day? A full must have been quite a few hours.
Yeah, I basically had her do all of the floors, baseboards, crown molding, banisters, all those little things that you just don't want to get into. To take you, and the house was 3,800 square feet. So it was that's not including the basement because that wasn't finished. So it was a big house. And I was like, it was just incredible to see somebody that knows what they're doing versus me just with my, my Swiffer mop trying to get the dust up. I was like, yes, this is what I wanted this house to look like.
Well, let's have a look at the house, because I've got the PowerPoint up right now. So, and you can talk us through this for the benefit of our listeners that are not seeing this. You can go to the YouTube channel, our YouTube channel. I'll put the links in the show notes and you can go and have a look at this as well. So this is the beautiful house.
Yeah, that's what we walked into the first day. And I didn't even know the porch was wraparound because we had a tree in the front yard and then holly bushes that were up to the roof line. So you couldn't even tell that the porch went around the house. And we actually wanted to save those holly bushes, but they had been so under cared for and overgrown that when we cut them down, the insides were dead and there was no way of saving them. So we had to rip them out. So this is what I went into. My father-in-law was like, come look at this great house. And I'm like, the one that has bushes to the roof, that house?
It's a big bush. Yeah.
Yeah. It's incredible.
This.
And that was April of right when we finished. And the tree in the front yard has beautiful pink flowers on it. And it was incredible. And you can actually tell that it's a wraparound porch. And we did really minimal landscaping only because it wasn't our forever house. We knew someone else was going to come in and probably make it theirs. And we wanted people to be able to add flowers or other landscaping without feeling like they were stuck with what we had, but also not leaving nothing. So we did pretty minimal landscaping, but you can actually tell it's a wraparound porch and just different angles of it. The wraparound porch was incredible. My kids ride their bikes up there when it was raining, and it was just awesome because it was a covered wraparound porch. So
nice.
Just awesome. And then I think the next one is our front door, which I just painted. Yeah, we got a new storm glass door, and I just painted it. And I laugh because our neighbors, when we got landscaping and I painted those doors with the two big things that people noticed, everyone thought we got a whole new front door. And I said, no, I just painted the whole thing black instead of leaving the side panels white. Because I felt like the house is so big, it needed a bigger looking door. And then when we landscaped, we literally landscaped October 30th and then went trick-or-treating on Halloween. And every single neighbor was like, your landscaping looks great. And I'm like, it's bad when every neighbor feels like they have to tell you while you're trick-or-treating how great your landscaping looks.
But that just goes to show that with a little bit of color, what a difference that can make. I mean,
yeah, my husband was skeptical. He was like, are you sure? I'm like, trust me. It'll look cohesive and great. And he was like, all right, you're right. I'm like, yes.
Yeah. We hate admitting that. And this one?
This was probably right when we moved in. This is probably right when we closed on the house. So you can see the trees are bare, but the bushes are still almost up to the roof line. And you can look at the back building and tell that it was a workshop then. We actually converted that to a garage, which you'll see, or we'll talk about here in a minute. And then that's the back, which that's what it was. It had just staircases coming off the glass doors and then the deck that we built with cable. Oh, wow. Yeah. And we did some bed boxes on the bottom of there so people could plant flowers, and we didn't put anything in there but mulch just so people could show. So that's a little bit of the back building. It's 2,000 square feet, which was huge and
nice.
Big, and we stored everything. And the railing on the back.
Yeah.
Hi. And it didn't even
yeah.
No.
Okay. So So Juliet was supposed to join us, but the whole timing it got wrong. So we're halfway through, Juliet.
Oh no!
But it's cool. It's fine.
Hi, Juliet.
Hey.
This is the whole point about live podcast, right? So this is how we do it. So now we've spoken about what it was like to do a renovation of this size, 3.5 years, challenging. We've been with young kids and everything else, and now we're just going through and showing the pictures. So we'll just quickly go here, Juliet, if you can see. So we've got the whole, like, this is the house before, this is the house before, and now.
Oh wow!
Landscaping and power washing does wonders.
It does. People need to realize that more.
Yeah, power washing was very therapeutic for me. We actually power washed the whole house, but I did all the brick and the sidewalks, and I loved it. I was like, it was like therapeutic and great because it was instant gratification. It instantly looks better.
Exactly.
It was better than today. I don't have to wait months for it to happen. It was amazing.
So when you did the power wash, so that was just pure water on the brick, right?
Correct. My husband had to use some stuff for the side of the house, especially see where the vines are growing there. We had vines stuck to the one side of the house, and that he had to buy like the special soap you attach to the machine and squirt and then let it sit for 5 minutes and then rinse it off. But for the most part, it was just water, especially on the brick and the driveway and the sidewalk that we did, because it was just junk.
And this is the outhouse. Yeah.
Do you see the railing there? Like, I'm surprised my children didn't
die
get stitches while we were there. Like, it was, I mean, you could like shake it. It was not structurally sound. So we had a new railing. That's another thing we did pay for. We had someone come do the railing at the end because it wouldn't have passed inspection the way it was. So they did that and they painted it. And I think I was more excited than anything that they were painting it because I didn't have to paint it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of surfaces, 4 surfaces for each little baluster. It's really time consuming.
Yeah. So then we have a basement in the house, which is really unusual for coastal North Carolina. And we had the storm doors that lead down in there. And we actually just used Rust-Oleum like metal paint.
Yes.
We painted it green to match the porch floor, but we couldn't believe the difference. It was, again, just a coat of paint makes such a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely.
That look.
And then
we had a back building that was, apparently we learned this. So a pipe burst in this building about 3 months after we moved in. The water was supposed to be off. We weren't paying for water. Yeah. So luckily our insurance covered it. So this is one of the things we had nothing to do with. That was just like, oh yes. And so we learned when they came to demo that it actually was a 2-car garage to begin with. And then the original owners converted it into a workshop / apartment. So we could actually very easily convert it back into a 2-car garage, and we got some money in our pocket because we didn't have to redo interior walls. We didn't have to rebuild what was there.
Fantastic.
So it was a great problem to have. And luckily it was not in our main house, so it didn't really affect our living. So that was
this is it. This is when you converted it, yeah?
And I say we, I say they, because I didn't have to do that. I was like, woohoo! But it was great because we needed the space, and it allowed us to have actual garage space to store some of the materials and whatnot throughout the 3 years. This is actually our basement, which was just empty. That apparently was finished at one time, but the rest of the house is 3,800 square feet. I'm like, what are we going to do with another 1,000 square? We just didn't need it. So it was storage for us. I just included it so people could see if they wanted.
So it's a big basement.
It is. And that's where like the air conditioning units were housed there. There's a sub pump to help with drainage. Cause like I said, it's not a place to have basements. It's very unusual.
So so I'm seeing studs against a surface. Is that surface painted foundation wall?
Is
it painted concrete?
I can't remember. I don't think it's cinder block, but I could be wrong.
Or cinder block. I mean, so it is the foundation wall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I avoided the basement at all costs, basically.
Okay. So your basement is uninsulated then? Correct. Okay. Yeah. Which maybe, I mean, North Carolina is a little warmer than Chicago, so maybe it's not as big of a deal, but.
No. It was the coolest place in the house all year round, honestly.
Yeah.
So this is the back room of the house, and it extended like the entire length of the house, which was crazy. So it was like, I want to say it was 17 feet wide by like 40 feet long, maybe even longer.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
47 feet long. That's what it was. So that's what it looked like when we got there. And then the back third of that room, we made my husband's workshop. So he built like a literal half wall on the back third to keep our kids out. Yeah, this is what you're seeing. So that wall, it's like out of plywood. It was literally like 4 feet tall, enough to keep our kids out of.
Right.
And then the only other entrance to that was from our kitchen. We put a baby gate there, and it kept our 2 and 4-year-old out of where the power tools and the saw and the nail gun and all of the dangerous things were. So that workshop was literally in our house. So he did all of the cutting, any sort of work he had to do was done in our house, which was convenient for him, but very inconvenient for me for cleaning and living in. I mean, like
imagine the sawdust and everything.
Yeah. The drywall dust was really the worst, but yeah, the sawdust, and it would smell like burnt wood sometimes, you know, like that. I don't know how to describe it, but it smells like firewood almost. But and I'd be like, oh, he was cutting wood today. Like I'd walk back in and be like, I know exactly what you worked on today. So what it smells like in here.
Hey, all your wood stayed dry.
Yeah. So that's his workshop. Like that's just pretty much what it looked like. And he just sawdusted all over the carpet because we knew it was going to come out in the end. Like we didn't care. So
but I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, this is a dream. Like I would have loved this.
For the husband, usually yes. For the wife, it's like, oh.
No, I know it's a nightmare. No, it is. But you could just be tinkering along and making anything you want. Like,
yeah, in the comfort of your own home. Yeah, he enjoyed it. He really did. Yeah. And there's a before and after.
Huge difference.
Yeah. Wow. So mostly cosmetic, which is the great thing. We just ripped up the carpet and put down this pergo floor. So waterproof, because again, we're on the river. So people are going to come in the house from outside into this room, and then painted the walls. And we shiplaped the ceiling for 2 reasons. One, to give it some character and to break it up. And the other reason was it was popcorn ceilings, and they used to have skylights that were covered up at some point. Mm-hmm. And when we had the big flood I talked about before we closed, they put the dehumidifiers all over the house, and they dried it up so much that where the skylights used to be, the drywall kind of sucked up a little bit. So we would have either had to remove and redo all the drywall, or we could get creative and add shiplap on top of it. So he basically, my husband found the studs, put in like 1-inch strips of wood so that he could nail the shiplap into that so it was level. And and then just put wood trim over the seams because the room is so long. And those are all 12-foot boards. So we had to have a way to cover up the seam. And then we just had new fans, and that was probably one of the last things we did.
I love
the big transformation.
I like how you've put that floor down, because instantly it's just, with the carpet there, it's just like,
the carpet had vertical lines in it. So if you're listening and not seeing, it had vertical lines the length of the room. So it looked really skinny and long. And we laid the new floor horizontally, so it made it look a lot wider than it did. We did in a lot of the bathrooms too. They weren't narrow spaces, but they seemed that way. But this is another view of that room with furniture in it. So I had a good friend who's a photographer come do pictures of our whole house with furniture in it, just so I could have them, because when you do something this big, you want to have some sort of. So I wish I could say these are like my iPhone photos, but she actually came in and did professional photos. So some of these are my phone, and some of them are somebody. Oh, so this is our formal dining room. This was, so there was wallpaper in the house and a significant amount of rooms. And this one I called like wedding bouquet explosion. It was just
1972.
Yeah, that's about what the house was built. And so again, this was a cosmetic room. So it was peeling the wallpaper, which is, I feel like it should be a law that if you have not peeled wallpaper in your life to remove it, you should not be allowed to put it up. You have to know. You have to know what it's like to peel wallpaper that's been on the walls for 50 years before you may apply anything new. Yeah. So I feel like that's
was that straightforward? Like, was it easy to get that off? Or
this room was. The other rooms were not. This room was the easiest. It came off in big sheets, We had to do like all these tricks we found online about like adding fabric softener to the water, and even that was coming off in pieces. So this one came off pretty easily. And this room was, again, just cosmetic. The hardwood floors were beautiful. We just painted, put a new light fixture on, and kind of cleaned up the floors a little bit.
Yeah.
And the thing about this house is all the trim, if you look, I know some of you are listening and not seeing, but if you look at it, I refer to the trim color as puke. It's not white. It's like off-white, brown, tan. And it's everywhere. It's the windows, the doors, the baseboards, the trim. So you're looking at now the formal living room, which was our homeschool room because we homeschooled. And that was the first room we finished. And the only other room in the house that had popcorn ceiling. And so instead of covering that up, we decided to scrape it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'd redo it this way. We dry scraped it. We didn't like do the wets. We dry scraped it. It's just stuff everywhere. So it came off easy and it let the ceiling have sort of a texture on it still, but not be popcorn. But it was very, very messy. And I thought I destroyed our floors, but I didn't, which is great. So, and then this became our office and our homeschool room. And it was just, I would come in and look at the corner of that room because it was, if I sat and looked at the corner, I couldn't see anything else in the house. And so I could see a finished product without seeing like,
I see.
You know what I'm saying? Like I would come in here when I was overwhelmed and like stare at the corner of the room because it was all done and it was pretty and it was 100% done. And I felt like our house.
Photo is the desk you're sitting in now, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So it moved with us, but yeah. So I loved that room. It was the first thing we did, and
it's a good tip, I think, because if you're doing a renovation and you're tackling all the spaces in the house all in one go, and nothing is completed for a long time, it can get you down quite a lot. So I mean, that's probably my number one tip anyway. Is just have one room done where you can escape to.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this is great.
Yeah, so it's all of the same room, and then I think we move on to eventually like the half bath. Yep, the half bath, which was the only bathroom on the first floor, was cosmetic, but we did it last, and I hated it. I was always embarrassed when people came over because I felt like our kitchen was done and it was great, and then you walked into this room, we were cleaning paintbrushes in that sink before we renovated it, so there's paint everywhere. It's just like the flooring was like urine yellow laminate roll down stuff. It was so gross. I was like, you can't tell if my kids have peed on this floor or if it's supposed to be this color. Like it was so bad, and I hated when people came over because that's the bathroom they would use, and I was like, don't judge me on this bathroom. But we actually kept the cabinet and just painted it, got a new top, and then we tiled and painted the walls. But yeah, we, Valspar makes a cabinet enamel, which was incredible. We used it in several projects in our house, but it just made covering up quality things where the wood just couldn't be refinished. Like there was no way to sand that down and stain it a nice color. We had to paint it. And that cabinet enamel just allowed us to really make things look pretty and new again and modern, and not look like they were stuck in the 70s where the house was when we moved in.
I'm surprised. Yeah, I'm just remember that toilet though. Like it.
Oh, wait till we go upstairs and there's a baby blue one in an olive green toilet. Whoa. Yeah. So this is our front door we just painted, and then we had a giant gong doorbell where like the pipes hit off each other, and we just replaced it with a really simple battery operated one. But again, this is a great picture to see like the trim color, and then these are just hallway.
Yeah.
Hallway pictures.
That's a nice.
Just so much. Yeah, just so much brighter with the lighter colors. We used a color called Sight White by Sherwin-Williams, which is actually a light gray. It's deceiving, the name, but Sight White is what we used in almost all of the house. And again, I love it, but I was trying to do, this wasn't our forever house. I mean, we were going to sell it. So you have to try to pick colors and finishes and things that will appeal to everybody, that are, they can bring in their own color and flavor with decorations. But the staircase, which I painted painstakingly for like a year. Yeah. Really? And then my favorite is the second year we were there, we gave our youngest his own little toolkit for Christmas, and he took the pliers to one of the banisters and like scraped all my paint off, and I wanted to like cry. So I was like,
oh no.
He didn't do it. He was like, I'm renovating. And I was like, oh, send help. I have to sand that now. It wasn't like I could just paint it. You have to sand it and like start all over. And I was like, oh, send help. And then we had this is the coat closet, and I love this room because do you see this wallpaper looks exactly like Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah.
The lickable wallpaper. Like the strawberries taste like strawberries and the snozberries taste like snozberries. It had fruit all over it, and it looked like you could lick it and like you were in the movie. And we peeled that wallpaper and just painted. And again, it was new floors in there. And this is the living room, which was like a pineapple explosion. It had pineapple wallpaper, pineapple curtains, pineapple light switch, and it had orange.
A pineapple light switch?
Oh yeah, we don't have a picture of it, but I promise you it existed. It was like a wooden pineapple cover over the light. It was incredible. Nice. It was like literally a pineapple went like boom.
That's amazing.
All over the room. Yes, and then hot pink duct tape covering the fireplace.
I thought that was you drawing on top of the photo.
that was. Yeah.
No, we didn't know why it was there. So it's hot pink duct tape. And we didn't know why it was there. So I actually covered it with black duct tape until it was time to address this room. Mm-hmm. And it turns out it was there for a very important reason, because there were wasps in the fireplace. And I learned this when this is another moment I should have said in negatives, but it was February. And like I was saying earlier, in North Carolina, you usually have a week where it gets really hot all of a sudden and then it goes back to cold. So it was one of those days where it was like 75 degrees and my youngest is in the living room and I'm in the other room. And he said, Mom, look at all these butterflies. Oh, and I'm like, what? So I walk in the room to like 24 wasps flying around, but they were very dormant. Like you could tell they were not supposed to be awake and up yet. So luckily I was able to like spray them with wasp spray and then vacuum them all up when they were dead. But we had to have somebody come in and like bomb the fireplace twice because the house was empty for 4 years. Yeah, we knew we had wasps on the outside of the house, which we had gotten taken care of before we moved in. We just didn't know they were in the chimney. Yeah. So when I actually peeled the tape off, they filled the room. Awful.
What is that? That's like a My Girl moment. You know the movie with all the wasps? I'm just imagining something like that.
Yes. But luckily these were very slow. And he was like, no one got stung. And my son was like, butterflies. And I'm like, those are not butterflies.
That's my worst fear. Wasps. Yeah. It's like, I cannot be anywhere near them. I look ridiculous if you go to a restaurant and there's a wasp near me.
Right.
So like I'm dancing all over the place.
So wait, out of curiosity, when you bought the home, did anything come up in the home inspection, that like, hey, you have like wasps nesting in your chimney?
They said there were in the on the exterior of the house. Like there were some big things in the exterior of the house, like under the soffits and things, but nothing about the chimney. And like, I honestly thought the duct tape at first was to help with drafts, keeping the air out, because we knew that the chimney cap needed replaced, which we had done actually like a year before, but we didn't have them look in. Like we just didn't think anything of it. So that room, actually, we got lucky with that room when we had the flood in the beginning. It got new carpet, so we didn't actually have to pay for carpet in that room. So the orange shag carpet went away, replaced with a much more neutral, normal carpet, and then we took the chair rail off in that room because we had ripped down one of the walls and we didn't want to put it. We didn't want to.
But that makes a lot of sense anyway. Yeah, it looks nice like that.
Yeah, so we just painted and cleaned up the fireplace and got rid of the wasps.
Yeah.
Well, there's the wall gone. Yeah. I mean, it's not that high of a room, and so I feel like that chair rail just makes it look.
It did, yeah. That was my concern with it. Yeah, it made it look like you felt like it's coming the ceiling.
Yeah, it's emphasizing all the horizontal planes, and you're like, why are we emphasizing that?
Right. Yeah. So where our kitchen table is now, that was a wet bar, and we just took that out to open it up. It was like it was pretty much the only room in the house that I felt like was really closed off, and we weren't really going for super open concept, but we wanted to open up the room a little bit, so we just took the wet bar out and made it a kitchen, like a breakfast nook. And then there's just room furnished versus empty. So
yeah.
Oh, and the kitchen.
Lovely kitchen.
It was beautiful. So yeah, the cool thing about the kitchen though, the cabinets, cabinets nowadays, they're boxes. Like it's this one next to this one. These were custom built. So they're actually like the whole length of the wall. So yeah, the kitchen, we completely gutted. And I mean, my husband replaced the subfloor. We got new drywall. Wow. This was like the wet bar that looked into the kitchen, looked into the living room. So we kept pretty much the layout of it. Like the sink was staying where it was, that type of thing. The island, we just scooted over a little bit, but it was just super dated and empty. And the majority of the house was hardwood floors, except the kitchen was like that crappy, just laminate flooring that had been, and then we had a butler's pantry off the kitchen with extra cabinets. Here is where our flood happened. So this is what my husband walked into when the ceiling filled with water and then collapsed. So we actually we worked out a deal and they replaced the carpet, and then the bank also replaced all of the appliances. So when we actually moved in with new appliances, but it didn't even matter because we were immediately going to demo. Yeah. So this is all like literally the whole living room and kitchen ceiling just came down when that happened from the weight of the water. Yeah. And that's the basement. I mean, it went from the second floor to the first floor to the basement. Lovely water leak. Yeah. So this is when we moved in. So not before, when we closed, I'm sorry. So when we closed on the house, had new appliances, they had they put on a newer laminate floor, but still crappy laminate. And so we immediately demoed pretty much everything in that room, except for the built-in china cabinet, because it was just cool. It just needed to be updated and painted, and we painted it just like we did the vanity cabinet. So
okay,
and demoing, so ripping down the walls,
rid of it, everything. Yeah.
Very
cool, exciting. Just getting rid of all of that.
Yeah, it was just and then we put in new pot lights in the ceiling to give it more light, because the kitchen was the only room in the house that didn't have a window directly outside. It was like in the exact center of the house, so direct windows. So we wanted to add as much overhead lighting as we could just to brighten it up, especially on days when you get storms. So, and that window overlooked our playroom. So we re-drywalled, we got new electricity in, we got new outlets, and then and my husband did all that. I mean, my husband mudded and drywalled and
is that your husband there?
He is. Yep, there he is.
I love the safety aspect of standing on the bucket.
Yeah. It was a do-it-yourself for sure. It's a miracle that no one died, lost a limb, or got shot with a nail gun, basically. That
happens with surprising frequency.
I know. I can't believe my children are still in good health. I mean,
that's 10 fingers.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, come on.
Yeah, really? He was priming because the cabinets were coming the next day, and then we moved the following day. That was the benefit of buying and leaving our rental. We had like a 6-week window before we had to pay a mortgage. So we were able to get the kitchen at least functioning before we actually moved our family into it. So yeah, and then the cabinets went in, and like I said, we did pay to have those done because it was only $400, and it was the best $400 we've ever spent. So because they got all the cabinets in a day, and then my husband eventually.
So they measured off-site and made and then came in and installed.
Yeah, we measured, and then they came out and double checked. I was looking for cabinets trying to save money, and I ended up finding a guy on Craigslist who was just a guy who did direct sales for a cabinet company. So we got better cabinets than we wanted for almost half the cost. So they were all like the soft closed doors and drawers. We were able to do the cool things like the pull out trash and recycling bins, and every cabinet had shelving that slides out. So
looks like they're well made as well.
Yeah, they were definitely great quality. My only regret is that I picked handles, like when I was picking out the pulls and knobs, the ones I picked, particularly for the island, I had like a permanent bruise on my right hip from like the amount of times I slammed into it. I always tell people you need to really think about where the handles go and like how you're walking in your kitchen, because and we weren't going to replace them all at that point in time. It wasn't worth the $100 to do in the time, but we just picked out knobs that looked great, but left a gnarly bruise.
This is all, what material is this? Is it MDF?
I want to say my husband was very particular because he didn't want the...
Looks like pine, actually.
Yes, that sounds right. I was like, when you say to him, he didn't want like the manufactured stuff. He wanted like good hardwood, like cabinets that were good quality. So... So then you'll see a piece of plywood on our island top, because that's what we use for countertops for like 2 months. Nice. So we went to Walmart and got a tablecloth that was like padded and vinyl on the top, and he staple gunned it, and so I could actually clean it off. So I could actually spray it with cleaner and wipe it down. Because we literally had plywood countertops for 2 months until we had the money to go get granite, and we had plywood floors for 8 months, I think, before we tiled. Which with little kids, it's like every food that they love, like the Cheerios and the pretzels, blend in with the.
Of course.
And then the nightmare happened, and my kid dropped yogurt in the crack of the plywood floor, and I was like, "Why?" It's like, how do I get this out? It's gonna spoil it. It's gonna stink.
And this is the granite going in.
Yep.
Well.
So, and a new sink, because we reused the sink that was there until this one came in, because the granite company included a sink with the purchase of the granite. So, and there's the handle that don't get handles like that. Because I just ran into that on a daily basis. But yeah, we did lighter cabinets and then darker countertops to give some contrast, because we knew we weren't going to do a ton of color in there because of we're selling it. It wasn't ours it wasn't going to be our forever home. And this is when he started tiling. So I think he told me it took him like 8 hours to get that first row in, because from what I've been told, I'm not a floor expert, but the first row and making sure that's level and correct is what's most important, because that's what everything. And of course the house isn't perfectly square, so he had to really work and finagle and measure and get that first row going in. So we my boys and I actually left the house for like 5 days while he tiled, and then we came back, and then he grouted it in sections. So he'd grout a section, we kind of block it off with chairs and whatever we could keep the kids out. And then he'd do another section and another section, because you have to let it dry for however many. And then we had to seal it because we did lighter grout in there. So you have to go back and you have to seal it all. So we grouted it and then we sealed it in sections.
Very nice.
Yeah, it was great. And again, and then we backsplash, but we didn't do the backsplash again probably till 2 years after the floor was done. Okay, so we're like the kings of 90%. Like we get to 90% and we're like, no room.
And this is marble, right? The backsplash.
No, that is some sort of porous stone. And we were really worried about like splatter on because we were able to seal the top of it, but there was like crevices. It was pretty textured. And I was like, what if tomato sauce or spaghetti sauce like splashes in there? So it didn't happen while we were there, but yeah, it's just a stone. And then this is the built-in china cabinet that we wanted to keep, but we knew needed updated. So we removed the mirrors from the back of it because it just made it look very dated. And then we used that Valspar cabinet enamel to paint. We primed it and then painted it. So took all the doors off.
Primed it.
Painted it.
Oh my gosh, that is such a process.
Yeah.
Yes, a very tiny paintbrush. Like I was like, what am I doing with my life?
Good choice of color.
Yeah, we were trying to do a neutral color because my husband wanted to get a very colorful backsplash, which I love, but I'm like, you know what? If somebody else comes in here, backsplashes are hard to change. Painting this is not hard. So like if they don't like the color of the china cabinet, they can paint that. It's a whole lot easier than ripping out a backsplash and trying to redo a different color. Yeah. So yeah, so it came out. It's cool. Like it was a green, gray, sagey color. And then to save money, because there were so many hinges, we spray painted the hinges because I knew with spray painting hinges, no one really touches those, because I kept reading like you really can't spray paint knobs because you touch them all the time and then the paint scrapes off. So we paid for new knobs, but spray painted the hardware, the hinges, and then the brackets that held the shelves up, because we felt like that was a way to save money but make it look better, because the Goldie brass is not our favorite.
I think I've got a feeling that you really enjoyed doing this.
The spray painting?
No, just the cabinet. Like
I did. That was, yes, because again, that was like a quicker project.
Yeah.
A lot of this house took so long. Like bathrooms took a year. So when this was like 2 weekends, I was like, hallelujah, something's done and it looks beautiful and we can use it again.
Yeah.
So, and here I use different knobs, ones that don't leave, take half your leg out when you walk across it. But yeah, so we just matched to the kitchen, and that cabinet enamel, I swear, is like magic. I want to paint every cabinet and piece of furniture I have now because it was so easy to work with. I mean, even just taking the mirrors out of that cabinet just made it look like it belonged in the house.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah. It just made it look so much better. It was just the old wood. Like I said, the cabinet was pretty solid. There was no amount of like sanding and restaining to make it look up to date. So we had to paint. And we actually left in the middle doors off. We left them there in case they wanted to put it back on, but left it like open shelving because I feel like that's a thing these days. And they wanted to put it back on, they could go put it back on, but we took them off.
Brilliant transformation there. Really nice.
It was fun, yeah. Like I said, the kitchen was pretty much that usable. Yeah, it was just a nice, and it was a huge. It was a big space.
That's a good picture.
Yeah, and again, this is my photographer friend.
Yeah, I'm actually really glad you saved the old cabinets there, because I mean, it is an older house and everyone knows it, And so when you keep little pieces like that, you can just feel the history in it. And I actually think it really adds to the character of the home, even if it's not like $1 million millwork. Yes. It's still we
wanted to do, like keep character, but so we did the same thing in that butler's pantry. We painted them and eventually got rid of those countertops were like some wood laminate stuff, and we didn't want to put granite in there, so we got like a laminate that looked like granite that was much higher quality, that was lighter, because that room was very, very dark to begin with. So but it was great. That room was great for like storing. Brilliant. Like we go to Costco, so like 8,000 rolls of paper towels and toilet paper, like it all fit in there really nicely, and it was just a great space to have in the house. But it was so dark before it. It had the flooring before we tiled it was actually laminate brick pattern. Like it was supposed to look like it was a brick floor, but it was flat with no texture. It was, the whole room was like a brown blob before, and we just wanted to lighten it up and make it functional. If you actually wanted to have a home office in there's like a desk built in, and
it's very cozy.
Yeah. Nice. And then the pantry and the kitchen we actually left. We just took the doors off of. And I love this pantry because it was shallow. And I feel like the deeper a pantry is, the harder things get lost. You put things behind things and you never see them again. And then you end up with like 15 jars of spaghetti sauce because you can't see it. So
those tilted shelves are amazing.
Yeah, and those were original to the house, which was why I loved it. We put a fresh coat of paint on them and updated the handle in there. And then at the end, we actually put on barn doors, but it was literally right before we moved. So a friend of ours built us the doors, and then we got like the hardware to hang it from Amazon. Yeah. And then here's just some great before and afters of like certain angles of the room. So now you can see the.
Out of curiosity, because we talk about this a lot, just in my own practice, when you do barn doors, are you ever frustrated by the fact that you can't have the entire thing open at once? You have to pick like, you're looking at the right half or the left half.
Yeah. So honestly, if we would have stayed there, I would have wanted no doors. It was so nice having it open. Yeah. And that's how the majority of the time we lived there. And it also forced me, I'm an organization person anyways, but it forces you to keep it clean and neat and lined up. So I would have left it open. And honestly, my husband was afraid to drill into the floors. And he didn't know if the future buyer would want them. So we don't even have, like, they're not even technically like all the way secure. Like they swing a little bit. They didn't like them. They could just take them off.
Right.
So we added the island light above the island and above the sink. There was no lights there before. And we got all of ours from Wayfair. Like we tried to be really economical, find things that look great, but were affordable. Yeah. And my husband built that beam that you're looking at right there too. Like it's a box beam just over the existing structure that we had to leave because of it's holding up the house.
Yeah. And I saw a pipe running along the side of that.
Yep. So he wrapped it all in insulation and then he built that box beam and stained it. So, which was incredible.
Great. Yeah.
We stained it too dark the first time and he had to undo it, which was really fun too. He only got like a big section done, not the whole thing, but enough of a section where I was like, that's too dark. We have to start over. So we sanded it all off and started over again.
That's such a huge transformation. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this is upstairs. And again, there's that puke colored trim that you see. And the lights, those lights were so low. Like I'm only 5'5" and I could almost hit my head on those. So those definitely went. But upstairs, all we did was paint. And then that linen closet door, those doors are actually from a school that got demolished. It's the side panels of a principal's office. And we took the two side panel windows and made them into doors.
Nice.
We got them for $20.
So wait, did you have to change the size of the opening to the linen closet? Or did they just like miraculously fit?
No, they were too long. So my husband had to cut off the bottom a little bit, but they were not, the width was perfect. And,
brilliant.
So this was the upstairs hallway. This was like, it was a huge sitting area. So we just threw some furniture. This was our guest bathroom, which was awful. So it had like the olive green bathroom. Yeah. And the toilet was green, but that shove and tower, shower and tub unit was actually like cast iron. Like it had to be taken out. And there's a hole in it. When we moved in, that bathroom actually didn't function because when the pipes burst, that's where they had to cut in to get to the pipes to turn the water off or to like find and fix it. So this room, and then the laundry room is in this bathroom. So it's a big space. This was another space where when we put flooring in, we made sure we put it in horizontally, not vertically, like lining it so it looked wider. So my husband demoed that giant tub and took it out, and we kept the vanity like we did in the other bathroom and just painted it and got a new sink top. And then this is like the hype. This is the other funny story. We got the new shower tub thing in and we got it through the front door. We're like, yes, it's in the front door. Yes, we got it up the stairs. It doesn't fit through the bathroom door. So my husband actually had to completely cut and completely take out the door, the entire door frame of the bathroom to get it into the bathroom. But it's amazing that it even went upstairs. I mean, you can see how tight that was.
Yeah. That's when you take it. God.
Yeah. So that new one sat in our hallway for like 3 weeks when my husband took apart the bathroom and got it in.
Yeah.
Wow. And then we built from there, and we actually ended up, this was like the hype of Fixer Upper with Chip and Joanna Gaines. And so we actually added shiplap behind the sinks in this bathroom. And at the time our town didn't have any. So my husband actually made shiplap. Like it's literally like wood overlapping each other, like real shiplap versus the kind that now like interlocks like flooring does.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we painted the cabinet, got a new countertop, new mirrors. He tiled this. All the bathrooms were tiled. So we wanted to tile them. So I think that stuff is called
yeah.
Yeah.
And this
So
is
he,
really awesome.
yeah, again, really neutral for almost everything, because if people didn't like it, they could redo it. So
Yeah. Very nice.
thanks. And then their kids. The first time, because they had been in our bathtub for a year. And
Oh
then the
yeah.
laundry room, we actually left the tile there and painted the cabinet to match the vanity, and just left. We actually put a door on there at the end, another barn door. And this barn door was big. It was like 6 feet wide, and it was on a 12-foot track, and it went all the way down and all.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, and that I actually prefer. So when you're talking about barn doors, like if I could do it this way, I would have preferred it. It wasn't an option in the kitchen because it would have blocked doorways or hit our fridge. So this barn door I love because it just covered the whole space.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. And then every bedroom had a different color carpet. So this was like our pink room. It had light pink carpet and matching light pink walls. And so we did get new carpet, and then I painted the walls and the trim in those rooms, in the doors, all of the trim. And then this was another, our boys' room was green shag carpet. Yeah. Green shag carpet. And then the other boys' room was teal carpet. It was just, and the thing about the bedrooms, you see that vent on the ceiling, like the circular vent?
Yeah.
If that was our forever house, we would have done that differently. They had, most houses in the south of the United States have fans in the bedrooms because it's hot. And these vents were in the center of every bedroom. And if we would have stayed there, we would have had them moved and put a fan in, but it wasn't worth that time and mess to do. Yeah. But we did spray paint them because they were all gross and gunky. And then, the master bedroom had like magenta carpet and blue walls. It was like an Easter egg threw up in our master bedroom. It was like, it really was just crazy. And then this is our master bedroom afterwards with the furniture, just bright and nice. And I will tell you another thing. I could go, I'll say that at the end. What I would do differently.
Your tips. Yeah.
I will say that at the end. But yeah, so the master bedroom, that site white, that gray color's everywhere, and I loved it. And so if you go back one photo, like, do you see those two doors in our bedroom? Yeah. When we bought the house, both of those led to the bathroom. The bathroom was like one giant U. So if you walked in on the left side, that was the girl's side, and it had a larger vanity and then a tiny closet behind it. If you walked in on the right side, you had a smaller vanity. It was the man's vanity and a closet behind it. And then on the back wall was the tub and the shower. Okay. So this room, the space itself is gigantic. The closets were the smallest in the house, and it was like the poorest use of space we've ever seen. So what we decided to do was make the bathroom the left side and make it an L. And then the right side was now a closed off walk-in closet. Nice. So that's kind of how we tackled that very odd space to make it work. But we didn't really change the footprint of the bathroom. The vanity stayed where it was. We just made it a double instead of a single. We left the tub where it was. We just reshowered it. So this is the wife's side, the larger vanity, and then a really small closet that was right behind you. When you were standing at the vanity, it was right behind you. Yeah. And then this was the husband's side. It was a smaller vanity with a closet right behind you. And then this room had a baby blue cast iron tub and a baby blue toilet to go with it. It was so pretty. This is the bathroom we used for the year we were renovating the boys' bathroom. So, we used our same cabinet guy in here for the vanity. And then that piece of granite, we actually got at a Habitat for Humanity restore.
Yeah, those are great.
You know, that granite was like $40. Yeah. So it had, here's the crazy thing about it. So it was a piece of granite with 2 sinkholes cut out, but no holes for the faucets. So we were like, how are we going to do this? So my husband was like, we can have it coming out of the wall instead of coming up out of the vanity. And I was like, okay. So I actually went to Pinterest and was able to find like some ideas. And I was like, well, if we're going to do that, we have to tile the wall behind it so that the water doesn't become an issue. Yeah. So we ended up tiling from the chair rail down of the whole bathroom. But we also had an issue with the sinks. So the sinks came in, and according to the measurements that we had and what the sink description had, we're like, these are going to fit perfect. They were like a ½ inch off. We couldn't get we couldn't get the sinks all the way in. My husband's like, oh, I'll just grind the granite. Now, mind you, when he decided to do this, the bathroom was completed. We were using it to shower. Our towels are in there. All our toiletries are in there. And he closes the door. I'm downstairs with the kids for like 2 hours. And I come upstairs to the most insane scene I've ever seen in my life. My whole bedroom, the door was closed to the bathroom. My whole bedroom was covered in dust. It looked like you walked into a fog. And my bathroom was my just finished bathroom was covered with like a 1/4 inch of the finest dust ever from the granite. So the good news is the sinks fit. The bad news is we spent probably 10 to 12 hours cleaning the granite dust. Like it was one of those moments that I almost left the house that time, but I didn't. But like, I mean, I was literally taking out LED light bulbs from our light and like cleaning them, like rinsing them off. And I'm like, what is this life that I am cleaning a light bulb?
Yeah.
Like right now, I was rinsing off my shampoo bottles and my makeup, and it was just like, and I was underneath the cabinet at one point, getting ready to vacuum it out. And I wrote in granite dust, "You're stupid," and took a picture for my husband so I can come back and be like, don't ever do something like this again. I couldn't find the picture. I have it somewhere, but I couldn't find it for the slideshow, but I did. I was like, "You're stupid. This is the most insane. I can't believe I'm spending 2 days of my life cleaning up granite dust." But the bathroom turned out great. We did wood tile, like it's tile, but it looks like wood on the floors. My husband did all that tile work himself, including all that very tiny pieces near the faucet of the bathtub. We wanted to keep the faucet where it was, and then we realized it wasn't going to, if we didn't bump it up a couple inches, it was going to hit the lip of the tub and splatter. So we had to raise the faucet up a few inches so that when the water flowed out, it went right into the tub and didn't hit the lip. But yeah, it was beautiful. That shower, my husband built that whole shower. He designed it. It has 2 shower heads. It has a bench in it, and it has a window in it. So when we get to the closet. So when we separated the 2 rooms, the closet got the only natural window in the space. Yeah. Okay. So my husband had this idea to put a picture window in the wall between the closet and the So when he first told me this, I'm like, "You're insane." Like, no. And he's like, "No, we'll frost it." And it actually turned out great. But the day we finished the shower, I was laying in bed and he was in the shower, and I look over and he's like knocking on the window and waving, and I'm like, "We've got to frost that. Like, no one's going to buy this house if we don't frost that window." So we have a picture window in our shower and in our closet. So we did the same flooring in the closet, the tile wood floors in there. And again, we were really basic in the closet. We just put up rods and shelves because I figured someone that's going to buy this house in this neighborhood is going to want a system, and I'm not going to pretend to know what it is. I think you have a paintbrush. Yeah. I'm in a paintbrush. I had paint in my hair like on a daily basis. I used to like braid it, and it would dip in, and I'd be like, "Oh, my hair's dip my braid into the paint again." But the rest of the pictures, I think, are just like outtakes and fun things. My kids with their toolboxes, and my husband enjoying his plumber's crack. Like he kept doing it. I was like, "You have a plumber's crack," and then he was actually putting the toilet in, and I'm like, "You legit have a real plumber's crack right now." And I had to keep all of our receipts. We went to Lowe's or Home Depot or a homeowner store 397 times in that 4 years.
I was about to ask you, like, I'm sure you got to know that store.
Oh yeah. Like they knew who we were. My kids were there all the time. Like, they knew exactly what they were doing. Like, we had dumpsters there all the time. My kids' favorite thing to do was watch them unload a new dumpster and take one away.
Must have been real fun for them, actually. Yeah.
So, cool. And then, I mean, that one picture, my kids reading a book with my husband, and there's a nail gun behind them. Like that was just our life. And the other one, we're in the kitchen. He's trying to get ready to do something. I got one potty training on the floor. I got Legos on the floor. I mean, that was just our life of trying to live.
Oh, that's a great shot.
We finished the house.
Yes. Such a great shot.
Yes, we finished the house. So it was a labor of love, and it was challenging and amazing, and like all the things and all the feels. And this was taken the day we left North Carolina to go to Oregon. So it was fun to get a picture on the steps. My husband and I have a picture on the steps the day we bought it, and that was sort of our way to end it and the same note that we started it. So we have the exact same picture, but our kids are in it that time. So that's our beast of a house.
It is a beast of a house. That's a sizable house.
It's huge. It was really big. And I learned that I don't want a house that big. Like when we go to a forever house, it's just, you are cleaning so much, you're not enjoying it. And we never used that back section of the back room where my husband's workshop was. We never needed it. We didn't. The formal dining room is what I used to paint things in. I would bring a door in at a time and put it on a table and paint a door, and then go put the door back on and then get a new door in. So we never actually ate dinner in there. We ate it at the breakfast nook. So it was a great house, and I I hope that whoever lives in it after us just enjoys it as much as we did, and hopefully doesn't have to renovate anything.
You've left it in a very good condition for them. I think,
right.
It definitely, the choices of the colors that you had, I mean, it's a massive transformation.
It was cool to see. We interviewed realtors before we hired one, and almost every one of them had been in it before. And it was really fun to see their reactions, because it was a slow thing for me, but for them to just be like, no, like, this is not the same house. Like, this is incredible. And I'm like, oh, thanks.
Yeah. So much equity.
Now we get to the bit where everyone that's listening and watching on YouTube are thinking like, gosh, what did you learn from this? What's your tips? And what's some advice that you could give? So like maybe the top 5 tips.
Okay. The main one is, so when we moved in, I was really like hell-bent on getting our kids' rooms painted and perfect. They could have cared less. Like, they were 2 and 4. They only sleep in their rooms. Like, they didn't care. We didn't do our master bedroom till almost 2.5 years in. And I didn't realize till after we finished it, how much of to come into your room at night and have it be calm and peaceful and not look like an Easter egg explosion. I didn't realize that until we did it. So if I ever do a house again, the master bedroom would be something I do first and not put off, because kids are resilient and they don't really care. But I needed a place to come every night that felt relaxing and serene and complete. And we didn't have that for many years. So I would have done that differently. I would say it took me about towards the end, like the last year of that house, that I finally hired a babysitter so that I could have time in my house alone. I was with my kids 24/7. We were renovating. I never got to enjoy my house alone. And I think that's really important, especially when you're renovating, is to take time to enjoy what you did. And I didn't allow myself to do that for the first few years. So I would say definitely doing that. And then I think reusing things where you can. We saved a lot of money. We didn't buy our boys new closet doors. We took the closet doors off the master bedroom and put them in there. We saved money by keeping cabinets where we could. I think some people think you have to renovate and rip down everything. And while painting cabinets is time consuming, taking, 4 or 5 days to paint your kitchen cabinets is a whole lot cheaper than paying $7,000 for brand new ones. And knowing what you want ahead of time, like I knew the color scheme. I knew what I wanted before we actually went out and bought things, and just having a Pinterest is great for that. You get vision boards and things like that. And then also samples. We had one big mistake in our master bathroom where I had one sample tile on the floor, and then when we went to put it down, it was horrible. And we had to go back. I had to go return all of it. So I brought one sample, like, this looks great. Ordered all of it, started laying it out to get how we wanted to, align the tile. And I was like, nope. Like even my husband was like, this doesn't look right. And so when you're sampling things, going and getting one sub-white tile is not enough. Like, go buy a box and lay them out. Because I had to reload all that tile back in my car and return it. And my lovely husband didn't know, but as he was repackaging it, he was packaging it with Lowe's tape. And I'm like, I bought that at Home Depot, and now I have to go there, and I'm leaving the tape on, and I go there and I'm like, don't hate me, Home Depot, but this is from your store. This is from your store. But it's wrapped in Lowe's tape, and please just don't hate me. And they were like, oh, you're fine. I'm like, okay. I was like, sorry. But just knowing, like, samples, like, it's okay to spend a little, and you can always return. That's the beauty of most stores, is that you can return anything that's not damaged. But I think that's my biggest. And then
you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Document it. That's what I'd say. Like, document it as you go along. Like, it was really, for me, I was really careful to get before and after pictures in the exact same spots I stood in. I had a friend come and take it with furniture in the house, because that's the cool thing, is to see like the progression steps of what you did and the immediate before and after. It's much easier to appreciate it that way.
It's not, even if it's like you're documenting it for just you and your partner, your husband, your wife, but your kids saw that, and when they might want to go back.
A big chunk of their childhood.
Yeah.
It was a huge chunk of their childhood. I mean, my youngest had just he was 1 when we moved in and 5 when we left. And that's all he's ever really known, and they both have their, like, toolboxes and their own little tools. And it's cool for them to see hard work and see it pay off. And they knew it paid off. Like, when we sold the house, we said, you guys get to go to the store and pick out any toy you want, because you guys sacrificed a lot too. this wasn't just me and daddy working hard. You guys, we didn't get to do as much because we were working on the house, and our weekends were working on the house and not out doing things. So they went and picked out the biggest Lego set and the biggest Hot Wheels set known to man, which they deserved. And we were happy to do it. But I was like, yeah, like, you know.
So what's next then for you?
Well, we got to our rental here and we were really happy to rent. But we got here and the wall in the living room was Coast Guard orange, which is basically like construction bright orange. So I got here and I had to paint. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like I have painted for 3.5 years and now I have to paint again. But this was so much different. Like when it's just painting and you know, it was very nice. But for us, this is our last tour with the Coast Guard before my husband retires. So we are really thinking about forever homes and it's nice to have this experience because now we can go back and say, do we want to build? Do we want to buy? And now we have options. For us, you used to think we had to find the exact perfect house. And now we're like, you know what? Location matters. Like we can buy either land where we want or buy a house where we want, and we can make it what we want because now we have all these experience and these skills and we know what we want to do and what we want to hire out this time. So that's exciting for us. I literally have a list on my phone of things that I loved from that renovation house that I want a wraparound porch. I want white subway tile in my master bathroom. I prefer white cabinets in my kitchen over like the off-white. Like, so I think it's just kind of dreaming and planning for the next few years before we actually are able to take that leap and pick where we're going to put roots down and probably do this again, hopefully on a smaller scale, not as big of a house. But that's what's up for us, hopefully.
Okay. Well, then, you know, fast forward a couple of years and hopefully you'll come back on and tell us all about that one as well.
Yeah. Oh, that would be fun. Yes. Hopefully I would have hired some of that and not have to do it all myself.
And we'll drag this one out of the archives just to
there you go.
Yes.
blend it in.
I like it.
Jessie, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Oh, thanks. This was fun.
I really enjoyed this. And Juliet got in halfway through, so you're going to have to go and listen yourself now.
I will.
But, it's been really, really great. And it's given me a big insight into how the houses are in North Carolina, you know, because like I said, I've never been there and it was a big task to do, and well done to you.
Thank you. It was fun. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks very much.
Thank you.